In the distance where hills lean against broken skies and trees lean away from wind that never stops breathing, a place exists without direction, marked only by forgotten footprints and roots that never moved. Dogwood Parish stood there once, not by choice, but by inheritance, built on stone that pulsed without warmth, beneath clouds that whispered in silence. People came, not in groups, not in joy, but one by one, carrying wounds stitched closed with thread made from things they could not name. The Carowway house leaned leftward from the start, tall and crooked like a listening ear pressed to the bones of the earth. No birds circled its chimney, though the garden below bloomed with herbs that drank more than rain. 3 sisters moved through that house, on Eunice, and mirth, each draped in layers of wool that never grew wet, each stepping barefoot across frost that cut the feet of others. They never smiled, but their faces stayed open like unanswered questions, and when a child arrived too soon, or a woman bled without end, it was not the town healer who came, it was one of them. They never knocked. They never waited. They entered and stayed until everything was still again. They carried bags without seams, cloth without stains, and spoke with eyes rather than mouths. It began with a baby who never blinked, born under a tree that shed no leaves. The mother screamed through the night, but when morning came, the crying had not started. The infant stared upward without sound, without tears, without hunger. The father brought the child to the church, but the holy basin stood dry, and insects lined the altar in perfect circles. From then forward, silence began to gather around every crib. Mothers braided salt into their curtains. Fathers buried silver beneath doorsteps. No one said why. A merchant's wife claimed her baby hummed during sleep, a tune no one taught. A carpenter found footprints shaped like hands on his rooftop, pressed deep enough to crack the wood. The preacher's youngest daughter coughed feathers each morning. The sisters walked through it all, not hurried, not afraid, their presence neither welcome nor opposed. A ledger hidden behind the chapel contained names written without ink scorched into the paper, 3 letters after each H. C, MC, UC. The names stopped matching the faces buried under the church floor. It rained for 7 days, but no puddles formed. A boy vanished near the ridge and returned covered in ash, his left eye facing inward. He spoke only once. One word. It echoed through his home until every mirror cracked. The sisters arrived without summons. The fire burned low, though no wood was missing. They placed something round beneath his pillow, something wrapped in thread soaked with something darker than water. In the weeks that followed, the town's dogs refused to howl. Chickens laid hollow eggs. Bread refused to rise. The council met beneath the butcher's shop. No one wrote minutes. No one remembered afterward who suggested the visit. One man went to offer thanks. He carried lamb's wool and elderflower. His boots were found by the Carowway gate 3 days later, untouched by mud, standing upright, a crow perched on each. The satchel he carried was untouched, contents sealed, herbs dry. That spring, cribs stood empty, though no one spoke of it. Women stitched blankets with red thread. Men carved runes into floorboards with the tips of kitchen knives. No one spoke above a whisper after sunset. In the south orchard, 2 children played beneath a tree with fruit that never ripened. They returned with mouths sealed shut, not with fear, but with hair. Strands looped through lips, knotted tight. The doctor said nothing. The priest wept without reason. A schoolteacher named Elise found names written backward on her walls, names not listed in any census, names that returned in her dreams, whispered by voices without lungs. She left one morning without shoes, leaving behind a chalkboard that wrote while she slept. It drew circles with points inside them. 1 at the top, 2 below, always the same shape. A cradle turned upside down. Mirth began to arrive alone. Her apron remained clean, though her hands stayed red. She watched shadows rather than faces. She placed white stones outside windows of homes where new infants cried blood. Each morning, those stones turned warm. They pulsed like muscle. No one removed them. On Eunice visited the blacksmith just after fog settled so thick the chapel disappeared. She asked for 41 nails. Not for coffins. Not for shoes, just nails. 41. No explanation. When asked why, she answered with a whisper sharp enough to cut wood. One for every breath taken without permission. The blacksmith gave them. He died 3 nights later with eyes wide, mouth open, and no wound. Beneath his pillow, the nails formed a shape of cradle, rocking slightly, though the room stood still. The sisters never looked back when they left. A girl named Maynard Pearl wandered away after her father's burial. She returned carrying a child pale as bone, hair like frost, silent but breathing. She did not remember the birth, only remembered a sound behind her ribs, a breath that was not her own. The child did not eat, did not cry, did not blink. Their chimney never smoked. Their table remained set, though no one ate. When neighbors peeked through the curtains, they saw the infant seated upright, watching the family as they prayed. That house emptied within the week. The door remained open, the cradle untouched. One dusk, Ha stood in the town square, holding a bundle wrapped in linens stained darker than rust. She placed it at the edge of the old well. "It belongs beneath," she said. Flies came before sunset. By nightfall, the bundle had vanished. In its place, soil refused to grow anything ever again. A boy stepped into that spot days later, his mouth clamped closed, not by muscle, not by fear, by something unseen. He never opened it again. A woman who dreamed of smoke awoke to find her bed soaked in milk, not fresh, not spoiled, warm and thick like memory. Beneath her sheets, she found a wooden ring shaped like a cradle. Her husband packed their bags that morning. They left without shoes. They never looked back. A midwife from the north arrived with a letter no one had sent. She walked the ridge with confidence. She vanished after moonrise. Her copper bowl was found warped, blackened as if burned from inside. That night, villagers heard 4 voices singing. One too thin, one too high, one not human. The Carowways stopped appearing together. One by one they emerged. One by one they disappeared. Always barefoot, always silent. A farmer saw Eunice standing in his field, arms lifted like branches. Crows landed on her shoulders, her head, her arms. She did not move. When he blinked, they vanished. So did she. He returned home with black feathers between his teeth. The chapel bell fell without sound. A hole remained in the earth, shaped like an open hand. It filled with water, though no rain fell. No one touched it. That autumn, children were born without crying, without color, without weight. Mothers refused to carry them near windows. One mother whispered that the light made their skin peel. Another claimed her child breathed through its back. Still, the Carowway house leaned leftward, doors ajar, windows closed, smoke curling from a chimney that never glowed. 3 windows blinked in rhythm 1, 2, none, over and over. A new family moved into the old parsonage. They invited neighbors to supper. Their daughter found a braid of white hair beneath her bed. A note beside it read, "Do not waste the first breath." Her mother burned it. That night, their stove burst open. No flame, only smoke, thick, salted. The girl vanished before dawn. Her boots remained on the windowsill, laces wet with something sweet. No one answered when her name was spoken. Doors remained closed. The town remembered old habits. Salt at the doorstep, Bibles beneath beds, mirrors turned backward. Children. counted backward during storms. They bit their tongues during thunder. They refused to speak at sunrise. A child named Tobias sang in sleep, not lullabies, not songs, chants in tongues no elder could name. His father tried to write the notes. His pen cracked. Ink bled into the paper, forming a cradle. Tobias vanished. In his crib, river clay, damp, warm, mouth-shaped impression at the center. The midwife who touched it walked into the marsh barefoot. She never returned. Crows stopped circling. Thrushes grew silent. The air thickened like breath held too long. The ridge swelled slightly, as if something beneath began to grow. The house creaked without motion. Stones sank, roots twisted. The earth began to remember. The humming returned, not music, not voice, something else. Something older. Children began drawing shapes without learning them. Circles filled with 3 marks. 1 dot above, 2 below. Always the same. Always in crayon, dirt, soap, breath upon glass. Their parents burned the drawings. New ones reappeared each morning, drawn deeper into the walls, darker, wetter. One mother scrubbed until her fingers bled. The marks returned inside her tea kettle. A teacher lost her mind after opening a notebook filled entirely with one word: cradle. Carved, pressed, stained, stitched, burnt. A letter came from nowhere, addressed to no one, written on skin, sealed with honey. It read, "Do not name what you cannot carry." The preacher walked barefoot into the ridge with a bowl of sugar. He never spoke again. His shoes found hanging from the bell tower, tied with red thread, empty but warm. His Bible sewed shut, covered in pollen, humming faintly. A girl named Nellie dreamed of being unborn. Each night, her breath reversed, her limbs turned soft. One morning she vanished. Her pillow smelled of mint and rust. The sisters never returned, yet their presence grew heavier. Each night, bowls of milk appeared on doorsteps. Always warm, always thick, always half full. Mothers hid their children beneath beds, but the windows still whispered. Winds carried lullabies with no words. A man tried recording it. His phonograph melted. The wax reformed into a cradle. A woman birthed a child with no mouth. Yet it hummed, chest rising in perfect rhythm. Each movement spelled something across its ribs. She read it once, then burned her eyes. A storm came without clouds. The rain fell upward. Puddles refused reflection. Lightning struck only iron. Every nail pulled loose from the church doors. They floated before vanishing. Children counted days backward. Calendars bled ink. Birthdays repeated. One child aged in reverse. When she became ash, her mother folded her blanket into a cradle and left it at the edge of the marsh. The ground hummed. The fog grew teeth. The town forgot its name. Signs peeled. Maps blurred. The air stopped echoing. Voices sounded hollow. Dogs barked at shadows shaped like hands. A cradle appeared in the middle of the square, rocking without wind. Inside it, nothing visible. Yet townsfolk stepped backward when near it. One man touched it and smiled for the first time in years. Then he stopped breathing. His face stayed smiling. His shadow wandered away. The sisters never returned, but walked through dreams. Faces reversed, eyes closed. Smiles made from thread. One girl found hair in her cereal. It whispered her brother's name. He had died unborn. She said nothing. Birds nested in chimneys. Fires grew cold. Bread baked itself. Cradles appeared inside pantries, made of bones. Baker refused to kneel. His oven turned inward. His spine followed. They found his apron beside a jar filled with white liquid that moved like breath. Names disappeared from records. Graves unmarked. Infants named before birth vanished before. Light, teeth found in vegetables. Dolls moved without strings. A woman bore a baby that weighed less than paper, but spoke with a voice deeper than her husband's. Its first word, wait. The milk thickened. Cradles grew legs. Doors locked inward. Windows wept. Roofs pulsed like lungs. A well sang every evening. The song told no story, only shapes. People started walking backward into rooms. One family slept upside down for 3 days. When they awoke, their eyes turned black. Not from lack of light, from memory. The blacksmith's child drew the sisters without knowing them. He called them by name. Ha, Merbth, Uneunice. He said they whispered in the walls. He said they were inside the wood, inside the air, inside breath. A new house built atop the old parsonage burned before roof completion. No fire source found. Ground remained cold. Ash tasted of sugar. A letter arrived with no return. The cradle waits. The town stopped ringing bells, stopped writing dates, stopped looking at sky. Time bent. Morning arrived twice. Night refused. To leave. One couple never woke. Their bed empty. Their sheets folded. A jar beneath filled with hair. When the door opened, laughter escaped. Then silence. No birds, no breeze, no heat. Only stillness. A stillness that remembered. One child spoke a word never taught. Books caught fire. Floorboards bent upward. A mouse ran across ceiling. A shadow followed. A cradle stood atop the chapel spire. No one climbed. No one asked. One night, everyone heard the same name, repeated, gentle, firm, Carowway. Again, again, then nothing, then sleep. A dream spread across town. All dreamed of the same room, the same scent, a cradle made of thorns, a breath that smelled of salt, a voice that hummed backwards. They awoke with soil on hands. None remembered burying anything. Yet, the ground outside each home carried marks small, round, cradle-sized. The ridge opened, not cracked, not split, opened, wide and slow. Inside, warmth, not fire, not light, just breath. The town stood still. Every home lit with candles that none recalled lighting. Wax dripped upward. Flames swirled in circles. The wind stood still. Bells melted. Salt turned black. Cribs refused to rock. Mothers wept without sound. Fathers stood without shadow. Children sang songs with no beginning. No melody. Just hums. Overlapping. Endless. The cradle waited. Inside it, no child. Only thread. Long, endless living. The sisters stood nearby, not touching, not moving, just watching. Their eyes open wide, mouths closed, skin pale like fog. Their presence loud without noise. Then they turned. Slowly, together, the cradle stopped. Breath held. Wind returned. One window broke. A whisper followed. Then nothing. The town blinked. Then the cradle rocked once only, then still, then dark.